This week, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI of the United States of America, also joined the Office of the Special Prosecutor to investigate the assets of Madam Cecilia Dapaah. Apparently, the FBI is interested in her assets in the United States and that of her associate and the transactions between Ghana and the US and vice versa. The Inspector General of Police and the leaked tape saga has been probed by the ad hoc committee set up by Parliament is also ongoing. And of course, in the midst of this, Ghanaians continue to talk about the economic situation in the country. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the program. My name is Beatrice Edu, and tonight our guest on the program is Brigadier General Joseph Nunoo-Mensah. Brigadier General Joseph Nunoo-Mensah is a former Chief of Defense Staff under the AFRC, that is the Rawlings administration. And subsequently, after he left the NDC, well, you know that transformed into the NDC, he became a campaign manager of the current president, Nana Akufo-Addo, during the 2008 presidential elections. And subsequently, when the former late president, John Evans Atta Mills, became president, he was the national security advisor. We'll be delving into these issues, what he thinks about them, and a possible recommendation as well, or recommendations moving forward. Good evening to you, General, and thank you so much for joining us on Townhall Talk.
I'm happy to have you here to talk to me about issues that are dear to my heart, issues that are important to us as Ghanaians. I've always been someone that believes in my country. I want my country to end well. So I'm happy to have you here and to discuss issues that you raise. If I don't know about something, I will tell you honestly, I don't know about it. If I knew, I wouldn't hide my answers from you.
Thank you so much again, General. So let me start from here. In the last few years, and I was telling you even before we started the interview that especially after COVID-19, you've been expressing your concerns over the economy and the repercussions the country could have as a result of the state of the economy. What exactly about the economy irks you?
First of all, I think it goes back several years when I was a little boy, growing up in the fishing community at Winneba. I don't know whether you know what Winneba is.
The central region.
The central region. You know, in those days, it took about 30 minutes, 45 minutes to go to Winneba from Accra. Today, it may take you as much as 5 hours to go. There are too many cars on our roads. But in Winneba, growing up in that environment, life was very simple. You know, everybody knew everybody around. Then as we grew up, this was in the early 1940s, after the war. But when the war ended, many soldiers came to Winneba from America, from Britain, and Ghanaian soldiers from Burma. So it's a beautiful time to grow up and see all these things happening in front of you. So it's been a long time, 80 years plus, from then to now. So all the changes that have taken place in Ghana, I've been witnessing them, you know, economically, socially. It was a beautiful thing. There was no TV, not even radio. Radio, there was a box in town. When you wanted to listen to the news, you stand by the radio and then, you know, you listen and go. Life was so simple. And, you know, I would say poverty as such. But people didn't bother too much about wealth. You know, everything you wanted was around. Food was plentiful, fish, everything was there. So as time changed, you saw the changes taking place. In education, I was the only person and the first ever to go to school in my family. Because I put myself in school. I put myself in school. 4 brothers in the family. I was the only educated one.
You had to fish to actually go back to school, right?
I was fishing. I was doing all kind of funny, catching crabs and fishing. And then the school block was behind my house. So, you know, life wasn't like today. And I regret that kind of life that we don't have anymore. You have a school near us here. To come to school, you need a car, a Land Cruiser, air conditioning. I mean, that's simple in those days. And I miss those days. So as time went on, and you struggle to improve your life, Went to school, pay my school fees. Couldn't go to secondary school. I had to go and do some work at the port, carrying cocoa, cement. You know, you toiled to make your life, you know, worthwhile. And you know, and it made life, I wouldn't say exciting. It was a very simple community, exciting life. Not much wealth. In fact, I remember in those days there were 3 or 4 cars in Winneba town. Today you can't, I'm sure maybe up to maybe 5,000 cars or more. Life has changed. But what has changed for the better is the issue. You know, education was very simple. If you went to secondary schools in Francis Prim, Achimota, some of us who were from the fishing village ended up, you know, doing all kinds of odd jobs in the town, working at the port, carrying cocoa, doing all kinds of things. So to go to school and then go to secondary school, you have to push yourself. This is what exactly I did. And went to school after, I was just about, I think, 20 years old when I began secondary education, you know, and from there sent to the army. So all the changes that have been taking place, you've been witnessing them. In about 1949, Nkrumah came from America, set up the CPP. I was a young boy then. And my mother, our relation, everybody joined Nkrumah. So you saw the movement of independence taking shape, you know, up to time when I joined the army in 1960, 63 years ago. Started teaching here, went to Britain for 2 years. Since then, I've had a wonderful army career. You know, so then comes the coup d'etat of course, after independence in 1957, Nkrumah became prime minister. Talk about corruption, other issues. We'll be talking about issues like that very soon. And corruption has always been around, but not as widespread, as deep as we have today. Maybe because there wasn't too much money around. You know, Kenke was one person. I mean, life was so simple. You didn't need too much money to live. But as time went on, and Nkrumah was, you were not born at the time. I know you were not. I won't ask how old you are, but you were not born. And in 1966, Nkrumah was overthrown in a coup d'etat. The army, Ghana was developing very beautifully. I mean, to my mind, it was changing very fast. Everything was basic, but then you built the Tama Harbor, the Black Star Line, institutions of states. Infrastructure was taking shape. It was changing beautifully. Then suddenly what happened? In 1966, Nkrumah was overthrown in a military coup d'etat. And then 2.5 years, 3 years, Bush's government came to power. The forefathers of the NPP we have today came to power. Everything was okay. But then the coups began to take shape. Coup here, there was a attempted coup d'etat in 1967, there was a coup d'etat against Busia, 72, the coup in Nigeria, all kinds of things were happening. Africa was actually boiling. People wanted a change. There were changes taking place everywhere. So if you ask me about the life, I mean, this is how I saw it develop, change it. Nigeria became independent in 1960. The Ojukwu, I don't know whether you heard the name Ojukwu before, Gawan. These were a few years older than me. Ojukwu actually came here and sat where we are today. You know, the West African armies were very close. The Ghanaian army, Nigerian army, I had many friends in Nigeria. So Africa was developing and boosted by Nkrumah's African policy, trying to unite Africa. Africa must unite. You know, we're all like one people. Until, of course, his overthrow, and then things began to fall apart.
So for you, at which point did things begin to fall apart? And again, I go back to my question of you talking with concern from post-COVID-19.
First of all, it began to change after Nkrumah's overthrow. I was in Ghana at the time. But in 1968, 2 years on, I went to Canada for 1 year. Of course, the changes continued. But I believe myself that, you know, Nkrumah was controversial. Any leader who is, you know, charismatic is controversial. Some like him, some don't like him. That's the way life is about. I don't say everybody likes me. Even though I'm not controversial, some may not like you. They don't like you. That doesn't bother me until it was going to affect my life. But when it began to change, when at the access of the country, I'm talking about Nkrumah did well too. Ghana was a very simple place. He began to set up institutions, set up assets like Gayhawk and Ghana Industrial Holding Corporation, Ghana Airways, Black Star Line, began to train Ghanaian. The Ghanaian young women like you were piloting the aircraft. In 1965, when we had the AU conference, the OAU conference in Accra, there were 2 Ghanaian young women in the Air Force who were piloting. I mean, this is long ago. Ghanaian young women were piloting planes. So Ghana wanted to actually to show that that black man could manage his own affairs. And in practice, he did that. He set up the Air Force, set up the Navy, got people like Army officers, Kenasha Larson, others in the Army to change over and go into the Air Force. He was in a hurry to show that Africa could be as good as in Europe. But in so doing, I think he offended quite a few people, and they plotted to overthrow him. Now, the economy, people, this Nkrumah, I mean, as I see it from now, that's about 57 years ago, 66 years, when the coup took place. You know, there were painful periods. Food, somehow, because it was investing, most of the money went into investment. Not much was available to be spent. So people felt that maybe inflation was, rising, they were spending more money, food wasn't easily available, and so on and so on. That is a bit that maybe you are not patient enough to wait to see, this experiment. I mean, people are never patient, so you've got to hurry whatever you are doing. Otherwise, they will say that your government, like the NPP, the Akufo-Addo, they will accuse you because when they feel the pinch, then they blame it on the head of the administration. So, to me, the economy actually, it was good. Frankly, it wasn't bad until the coming into force of the Fourth Republic, 1992. When you set up there was a long period of instability, coups here and there, until Rawlings, I'm sure you heard about Rawlings' coup, I wouldn't say Rawlings' coup. He didn't organize the coup. The coup was a spontaneous reaction to the military government. And young officers seized power, arresting all their senior officers. Later on, executing quite a number of them, quite a painful period. I don't know, I'm sure you've read about many of them. Akufo, Kote's house next door here, Kote, Akufo, Boache, it was very painful. These were my colleagues. So I felt this trauma, very, very close to me. In fact, Burma Camp, Juba Villas, not far from here. My next door neighbor was one colonel, a nameful. Many people don't know this fact. The night of the coup, June 4th, he and the wife were shot dead. I could never understand up to now what happened. And they had young, growing children. In fact, the woman had a baby not more than 1 year old, 10, 11 months old. And then both father and mother were shot that night. You can imagine what the scene would have been. So when I see what is going on in Gaza, for example, the killing going on and so on, I feel the pain. It makes me back to 1979, for example, when this murder took place. But my bitterest regret is that we haven't learned lessons a lot from this.
So again, I'm going to my question. What is it that you have seen that you're concerned about? You just talked about the shift taking place after we became a Fourth Republic. That's after the 1992 Constitution was brought in. So what shift did you see, and why you think that over the period we haven't really done as you're supposed to do to make progress?
What I have found I'm fortunate to be around over this long period. Not very many of us are around. And the problems of corruption and all the things we talk about have always been with us, But somehow, again, we go back to Nkrumah's period, there was corruption. People were talking about, Dukobodu say doing this, doing that, but it wasn't as massive as we see today. But what I see also wrong with us, wrong with our professional, not professional, the political elite, is that they were very different from then, from now.
How different?
A man like Nkrumah, who was leader of the government, became prime minister, then president, wasn't flamboyant, wasn't showing, wasn't. They are driving Land Cruiser everywhere. Everybody driving Land Cruiser. One who can't get trinket to eat, Nkrumah will never do that.
But you know, people also accused him of not spending the money the country had wisely.
That is debatable. You see, when you are my neighbor, you live here, I live in another house here. You have a problem. Talk about a problem like Guinea, for example. Secretary, I don't know whether you heard the name, Guinea. Secretary was president of Guinea. Modibo Keita. They became independent, and France drew all the assets, impoverishing the country overnight. Then, suppose you are here, you owe government come and raid you, I take all your assets away, and I'm here. I would say, my dear neighbor, take one chair, take one cook. And that's what Nkrumah did. I wouldn't see it as wasteful. It's just being, I would have done the same thing.
So what would you rather was done, about the economy, as you haven't really told us what you think your problem is with the economy, although in the past you've spoken vociferously about how you feel that things could be done better. So I'm asking you, what do you think could be done better to make life a bit more comfortable for everyone?
I am of the currently, I'm a Pelago is around 80 now. I don't know how old he is. Do you have any idea?
He's almost 80.
Around there. So I'm just about 6, 7 years older than him. So almost the President Kufuor is around age group, or maybe a year or two. So I've gone through all this. But when I look back at the beginning of our political experiment, as I said before, corruption is around, whatever you do. When you don't, it's there. But today you find that, first of all, it's widespread. It's widespread. It's deeper. And I think the reason being that in those days, people are very simple. They don't understand economics. People can steal. Today, if you are in public office, you have the power to import something for the country. You inflate the price. And then with your accomplice abroad, you cream off the excess money. This is what we're coming to, Madame Dapar's issue. That's how people, people then were not as greedy. I don't know. Maybe.
So you said corruption is deeper. At which point? Because I earlier asked the question about, and I've been asking you the question about your issue with the economy. And I'm sure that you're all too familiar with the JIDA scandal, the SADA, the Airbus. In Kufuor's era, there was this huge debate about the sale of Ghana Telecom to Vodafone. The Hotel Wawa issue came up. Under this government, there has been an issue of the Sputnik V vaccines, and there have also been the issues about the PPA boss and others. So when you say deeper, at which point?
What you have just said, confirmed my statement. In my time there, in those days, and that's going up, you didn't even one case. There were 1 or 2 cases. But today, you can go on, rattle many of them. So what I'm saying is that suddenly is maybe because the media is now more powerful than those days. No Ghana, no TV. So news wasn't traveling that well in my time when I was growing up. Today, our interview by the evening, it's all over the place. And so people will get to know. Maybe that's one of the issues, that news travel faster and wider.
So are you trying to say that it's not that you're seeing a lot more people being corrupt, but it is because the media is highlighting it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. It is there. It's suddenly increased than those days. And also because the media are doing their work. Today you have television, you have all the, the media. You can spread news, very easily today. But the fact still remains that corruption has increased. And young people today, those that took power after the coming to force of the Fourth Republic, they are not like the. Thank God I've lived through that period to compare them. I mean, I keep on saying Nkrumah. The people in those Nkrumah, Bochu, Kesley Ford, all these people that were in the government, hardly did you hear. There was one or two cases, but it wasn't as widespread as we have today. And I'm saying it is so because indeed it is so. It is spreading.
So
and also because the media are reporting better than in those days.
What specifically have you seen that makes you conclude that things are spreading as compared to those days?
And the reason, again, I keep on giving is that maybe the press was not as powerful then as they are today. But you rattle quite a few issues of corruption. You come to some of them. And suddenly, in the military, for example, I've been in the military since so many years. This house we live in, if I tell you the price of the property, you wouldn't believe it. But that is, somehow younger people today want good life very fast. You go to politics. In those days, you go to politics to serve. I went to the army to serve. To serve. Today, you go to politics to make money. Most of them, because I've been a politician before. They go in not with the sole purpose of making life better for the ordinary people, but they go to make themselves, wealthy. But politics should not be designed for that purpose. You shouldn't go to politics if you want to make money. You go to serve, make Ghana a better place. But this is what I have seen from the days in the past. First Republic, Nkrumah Republic. Then, once the overthrow of Nkrumah came in, I mean, this is the problem we have. And we will come to maybe the external issues like Libya. The problem is almost the same. Corruption is being increased. And increasing because maybe there's more wealth around. Those days we were selling cocoa, timber, not much to, but today you are, there's much more to sell, much more, and we are better educated. So we know how to hide wealth. You talk about how to hide wealth. In those days, when I was growing up, when my father sent me, he didn't give me money to go and buy something. He said, go and buy me this. I knew where the money was. I go to the bedroom, under his pillow, I know all the money he had in this world was under the pillow. I would take what I needed, buy whatever I had been sent to buy, then bring it to him and change. I could bring the change back to where I took the money. That is training to have integrity. Training to have integrity. Because money doesn't mean anything to me. It's a source of buying some food, and life was very simple. Bread, food, I didn't even milk. I never drank milk. I don't know, milk was useful, but eating fish cake was enough, So it's clear that the world is now a much dangerous place. You look at the world, that's my worry. As I keep on saying, my worry is that it's becoming much more dangerous, much more risky to be in the world. It's not just, it's even crossing the road, you have to be careful. Because the cars are many more cars that are driving fast. They can be knocked down, you can be knocked down. So that we need to be aware that we are living in a more dangerous world now than ever before.
How does this relate to the economy?
How many times the IMF has been in Ghana? 17 times. Some say that. And the economy is not getting better. If you are sick, you apply a medication of all these years, and the sickness persists, the medication is not having effects. It means we are applying the wrong medication. If the economy, Ghana shouldn't be, that's the way I see it, shouldn't be a poor country at all, because we have too much wealth, natural wealth, to be poor. But either because we don't manage the economy properly, there's corruption, bad management of the economy. Things go. I mean, I built this house here myself. I built it, literally. And if I told you how much money I spent, you won't believe it. Yet, if I'm to build a house like this today, and they bring me the bill, if government is building, the bill will be 10 times more. I built many schools in Ghana here, many schools. I don't know whether you know O'Reilly Senior High School. They are teaching.
I was actually going to the place because when you went to inaugurate the 9 classroom block at the place, I remember clearly, and it was also in the month of October, like right now.
Exactly.
It was 20-something October, and it was in 2013. And you literally lambasted labor unions. At that time, you were the National Security Advisor under the Mills administration.
You can see something over there.
So, 2013, Mahama had taken over because Mills passed in 2012.
That's right.
And you lambasted the labor unions for the increasing number of industrial actions and told them that if the kitchen was too hot, they should get out.
Get out, take a passport and get out.
Yes.
Because, you see, if you see what I did, I was living in this place here.
Yes, but that was 2 years before the Bahama government went for an IMF program, which you're raising issues with. What has changed?
I'm raising issue with not only with our governments. Nkrumah never went to the IMF. Nkrumah didn't. Achampo didn't. Achampo built Ghana. To me, those two regimes did far more than all who went to IMF. So point I'm making is that if you went to IMF, over the years, with your ailments and ailment persist, you should say, this thing I'm taking not working. So Achampo comes and then launch something new. Operation Feed Yourself. This area was a quarry site. This area. All the topsoil had been taken. This house is sitting on rocks, on bare rocks. So if I can grow bananas and so on here and succeed, it means Ghana is not hopelessly poor. So then we come to management of the economy. Were you at the launching of the 9 block 10? Were you there? You didn't attend, but you had a good report on what happened there. See, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician, but I believe that we are not running Ghana the way, maybe I'm right, I'm wrong, but this is the way I believe.
So the reason I asked you what has changed is I hear you make 2 points. You talk about we not managing the economy well, and it's been like that over the period. Yet at that time, you told people, and obviously at that time, the country was going through difficulties. To an extent, there was even a Senchi dialogue, as it were. That was, I believe, in 2015, just before we went for the IMF program. So at that time, obviously, people were complaining about management of the economy. But you didn't tell them that, yes, I admit we mismanaged or we are not managing the economy well. You rather told them that they should get out if the kitchen is too hot.
I've made a point over and over again since we began this interview that things turned bad when Nkrumah's government was overthrown. In fact, since the beginning of the Fourth Republic, 1992. So at that point, I still make it. That it's not a question of the NPP in power or the NDC in power. Just that this next group of politicians haven't managed things properly. If they did, why should I get up at 3 o'clock in the night, cook for workers, go to O'Reilly and build O'Reilly Senior High School? Why should I do it? It's not my job. But because things were bad, that's why I actually took on that additional job. I was then security advisor to President Mills, but why should I then go and do it? I didn't like doing it, but it had to be done. But when I passed around the cathedral and saw O'Reilly school children hadn't been ejected at the time, homeless, I felt a lot of compassion for them. Having regard to my own background, I'm born with a lot of pity because I've gone through a very hard life. So I'm not saying that the difficulties began now. They've been with us, especially since the beginning of the Fourth Republic.
I remember during that same speech, you also talked about the need for those who were complaining at the time and who were embarking on the protests to rather support the development of the country than just to hit the streets, and even went ahead to say those who are striking should not be paid. Would that be your advice now, especially in the face of reports that a lot of young people are leaving the country of all professions, which particularly those in the medical sector?
It's regrettable, very regrettable. My position in those days My position has never changed. Again, I was saying to myself, you were secretary advisor to the president of Ghana. You had nothing to do with O'Reilly. But why are you in O'Reilly building school? What I asked him for was public sympathy. That people who were, I said to workers, they were on strike. In fact, what happened at that particular time, the Mahama had taken over as president, and I had met him a week before and was trying to let him react to this demonstrations and whatnot, but he didn't pay much attention to me. So when I came to O'Reilly, in fact, whatever I said was not the other address written, but I tore the address up and then went extempore and to hide the crowd. I would look at my own, what I was going through wasn't easy. Look at 3 o'clock coming to work. A job was not my job, but I felt sympathy for O'Reilly, sympathy for the man, because I've done that to many schools across the country. So it wasn't just, I was lamenting the fact that they didn't have any sympathy for the others who were struggling.
But was it their fault? They needed their money.
No, it wasn't their fault. I mean, it was my fault that O'Reilly was being closed down. But I reacted in a different way, you know. So the same position I will hold today. Again, government wasn't managing things properly. If they did, I wouldn't be doing what I did. Today, if you go to American Embassy, not far from here, sometimes you go, there's a crowd, a real crowd, doctors, all kinds of professions, trying to run away from Ghana. And I look at them and I weep inside me. But Ghana is not poor. Why should Ghanaians, the cream of society, those to whom the future belongs, run away and leave Ghana?
What would you say then to Democracy Hub, for instance? I'm sure you might have heard the protest which took place at the Jubilee House, where some people were even arrested. There's a statement that has come in, it came in not long ago, a number of days ago, that the group will be picketing again the Jubilee House, and it will be daily in December. How do you react to that?
What is the group's point? What are they saying? Why are they picketing?
They want the removal of the president, and they think that the country is not being managed well.
They want the remover by whom? Who should remove him? There's a constitutional requirement how, you know, a president is changed. It's not the military. You want the military? No, the military is not a military job to do that for them. All that they should do, once we hit the political road, let's keep it that way and do it properly. You know, our politicians are not behaving the way, to me, they should. To me. The military, I talked earlier about the June 4th and all the chaos in the army. Maybe my army training played a very big part. That I don't do things which I know to be upsetting people.
How do we then deal with this cyclical issue of people feel that they need a change, so they vote out one government and they bring in another, and they tend to have the same result? How do we deal with the cyclical issue?
That's a very vital question, Fox. The problem with Ghana today is that the two main parties are like twins. They're almost the same. So changing NDP for the NDC wouldn't make any difference. Same will continue. Unless there's a fundamental change in the way we play politics in this country. And one day, when we came here, I was talking to one radio station on this very issue, and I was saying, the youth of this country, you know, are failing themselves. Macron was 39 years old when he became president. Nkrumah was about the same age when he founded the CPP. You know, so the youth of this country shouldn't sit down, only enjoy their good living, their land cruisers and their wonderful life, and wait for somebody to build a better country for them. That will not happen.
What do you expect of them? What do you expect of them?
Like, if you go to Europe today, the youth, they're in politics. In their 30s. I want them to be in their politics in their 30s, not when they're 80s and going to 90, like me. My job is done. I don't have a future. The future belongs to them. So I'm saying to them this morning, I say it again. I don't like any adventurous, you know, game here. Let's do things. Now we want to go political. Let's do it and do it well. They're not doing it well. The youth of a political party, the Ghana Youth Movement or whatever, party and then contest the election. Convince the young people today in Ghana, the very young people, say our future is in our hands. Vote for this, our party. We change your future, your children's future, all our future. We can do it. And when Nkrumah came, you see, when you met Nkrumah, you're convinced the man was serious. First, I saw him face to face, but 1950. I was in a boarding school, I went in Sabah. And I heard Nkrumah was coming to Winnipeg. So I ran away from school without the exit to come and see him. You know, and you were convinced that he meant what he was saying. That is, today, and he wasn't a politician. He was telling us the truth. He wasn't lying to us. Politicians today tell a little truth, and plenty of lies. And because our people are not politically mature, they don't understand them.
I'm sure you've heard about the FBI, and I said it during my introduction, coming in to collaborate with the OSP to unravel the Cecilia Dapaah case. What do you think about this?
I don't know what the FBI's interest is in Dapaah's case.
The FBI talks about assets in the U.S., and I would just go ahead and read that statement that was posted by the Office of the Special Prosecutor on its Twitter handle. And it just says that the Office of the Special Prosecutor and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, at U.S. Embassy Ghana have initiated concurrent inquiries into the activities of Cecilia Dapaah, the former Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, and her associates. These investigations primarily focus on examining their assets and financial transactions within the United States of America. This collaborative effort is to ascertain the lawfulness of Ms. Dapaah and her associates' wealth, both in the context of their funds transactioning from Ghana to the United States and vice versa.
What you just read to me indicate to me that maybe the Dapaah's issue is not, it's bigger than we think. But the FBI wouldn't come in to investigate in America. Whatever in America, we don't know. So maybe collaborating with the OSP will you know, open a Pandora's box when you see what the hell is going on there. But they wouldn't come in and then collaborate with us unless they have information and they are better equipped than we are to find out what is going on there. You know, and this again, you know, makes me, it's like, I wonder why people behave like that. Because I'm not like that. When we live in Ghana, so what minister for what?
Sanitation and water resources.
And we haven't explained properly how that money came to, I mean, you know, into a being.
But isn't that why the OSP is investigating? And people have already concluded.
That the money came from where?
No, I'm just saying that the OSP is investigating, but she's already been condemned.
Already been condemned. Yeah, if you came and I've got all this money, and I can't explain. And when I joined the military in those days, our wives were not allowed to work, no, to do business. And the reason was very simple. The officer was supposed to be as corruption-free and have integrity in his life. Because being an officer is not a small thing. You must be trusted. And everybody in the army knew what everybody received. So if you lived beyond your income, it will stand out.
As a former chief of defense staff, I can assume that you know how the FBI, CIA, MI6, and all those work. What ramifications do you see with an FBI in charge of internal security, as it were, having to deal with this cross-border case?
No, I mean, if they are cooperating with us, I see nothing wrong with it. I mean, the police, it's a police, I mean, institution, and they have cooperation at that level. At once in the intelligence service, and they do cooperate. I've been to CIA, I've been to Langley to study it, so I know what this goes on to ensure that we have, you know, crime is it's cross-border crime. A lot of things are, people are traveling, criminals are traveling across borders. If you don't cooperate, you won't be able to overcome crime. So sorry.
No, please land.
If the FBI are involved in this, I'm not surprised at all. That all that it tells me that He said the past matter is not bigger than we think. The FBI has come in.
What's your reaction? I'm wondering whether you followed the OSP so far on what has been done. There have been a number of court appearances. The FBI, the OSP first tried to seize the assets and the cash of Cecilia Dapa and freeze her account as well. The bank did not agree with him. He's gone back to court again to try and do same. How do you see how the OSP is going about this very case?
To be honest with you, to be very frank, I have not been following the day-to-day working of the OSP. You know, we tried to do with this Martin Hamidou. He left. The thing is that what makes me sound a little bit worrying is that when you talk about Ghana, it should be political. NPP in this. No, it should be Ghana. Ghana should stand out. But if we lose Ghana, Ghana is in chaos. Where are we going? So there are matters like this. Both NPP and NDC should cooperate that the right thing is done. If you look, it seems like a political vendetta, between NDC and NPP. It's not the way I want to see it. So we want to, this country, you drive around and you see, if you were to stay here for a bit while, you will see people coming to pick their children, and the car they are driving, they overwhelm me. My car was not far from here. In my time, I was driving my own car to work. I still was the first time. The car is still I put a battery on it to start. Almost 50 years old.
You kept it well.
Well, you can see I don't like wasting money. Ghana should invest in the future. Otherwise, you don't control population. There's a lot of birth. We can't look after the antenatal clinic. People are too poor to take care of themselves. They are too poor. And in that atmosphere, you don't spend money doing unnecessary things. The money must be well spent.
What do you think of the IGP, the probe going on into the leaked tape that was allegedly plotting the removal of the head of internal security, of course, under the Interior Ministry?
The IGP issue actually saddens me, as I was in a position that he is, but in the military, so I can understand it. And there are things in the military that I'm sure police, most public services, that should be national, not party political. For example, appoint a CDS. If a new government should come to power, it's NDC, you have to remove I don't believe in that. Because the man holding that office, whether it's the IGP or the CDS or anybody holding a public office, is serving Ghana. And I'm surprised that, for example, an NPP government will come. It happened to me in 1979, so I understand it pretty well. When there was the coup d'etat, 4th June 1979, Rawlings, it was a terrible situation. Eventually, they handed over power to the Liman administration, PNP. The Liman became president. In a matter of 3 months, he retired me and two other, and Rawlings and Queen. I was 42 years old, driving on retirement for a very long time. Maybe the oldest retiree in our history. I got angry. Got angry because I wasn't a political, the Kuchel Bekwin, the man Morigala, but I didn't see myself as a politician. I saw myself as a patriot, serving my country through the presidency.
So what is it about the IGP's issue that saddens you?
In other words, for Commissioner Mensah, if the one who made allegation,
Alex Mensah.
Yeah, once in a while I listen to it, not every time. To make a statement that, whether it is true or not, that he wasn't one of our party, the IGP wasn't a member of our party. Whatever I did, to say that to me it should never be said by a senior officer that he's not a member of a party. The IGP isn't political appointment. It's appointed by the president, the advice of whatever it is. But he serves the country through the president, no matter who the president is. He need not be a member of the party. It need not.
But the argument is that they do a lot of lobbying before they are eventually taken.
I didn't do lobbying. I've never lobbied in my life. Never. Beg anybody. I mean, that's why I am controversial. I never beg anybody. I never did it. Never in my life. Never. See, I don't believe it's the right thing to do. Let the man be or the woman, wherever the woman. There was a woman IGP. I don't know whether you remember that. Mrs. Robertson. Remember her? 2 years ago. She stayed for a very short time. Whoever is put in that position will be professionally acceptable. Those that he's going to command, the police, the military, should respect him.
You think that what is happening is stifling or squeezing out the professionalism of the IGP?
Whatever happens in this matter, I don't know what he will do. If I'm in position, I will quit. I will quit. I'm telling you.
You want him to quit?
No, at the end of it, when the matter is finished. Not now. Because it happened to me in 19, again, apart from Rawlings, from the man's dismissing us as a young, I mean, it was terrible because I was too young to retire. But they didn't find comfortable with me. Not professionally, because I wasn't saying yes to them, to the Minister of Defense. Rawlings later on, he came back 33 December 1981, kicked the man out, and I was brought back for the second time. I've been serious on 2 occasions. And they too, I couldn't hang around. See, when you are principled, no matter who is there, your principles will show. I didn't like what they were doing. In 82, I resigned.
But why should the IGP quit, especially when he says that he hasn't done anything wrong?
No, I'm not saying he should quit now.
After? Yeah, why should he quit?
I'm just disgusted. You know, I mean, to make his position political. I know him very briefly. I know him, but I met him once or twice. You know, but these machinations should stop. You know.
You think it's a plotted attempt to get him out?
There was a plot. I mean, there was, for a young officer, Mr. Nunoo-Mensah and another one. How many of them made the allegation?
There were 3 police officers. He's the senior one.
This wouldn't happen. It just happened because politicians did it. But for professional people to meet and deliberate on their boss, in a way I've heard it said on television and other media channels, you know, I would have. Once I left, I came back, Rawlings brought me back. I was having a lot of fights like this within the military. And one day I just wrote.
What would be the impact if he quit? What kind of message would it send?
Did you ever see the letter of my resignation? I've ever seen one. I can get a copy, I think, on the table here. When I resigned, what I said, I put in writing. I was quitting. Never been done before. No serious ever resigned like that. But when you make my life difficult, I haven't gone through all this. How did IGP, you know, run the police service the way it should be run? His image has been dented. What has been said about him? You don't have any mutual respect between you and your soldier. And I left. I shouldn't have left, but I left. I don't know whether you know that I've resigned, I've retired now 2 or 3 times. I keep on retiring. Because I don't hold my position as do or die position. I came to serve my nation. You want me to serve. The IGP, I'm sure, retires from the salary. So retires and go that way. After it's been cleared, enough is enough, I'm going.
Brigadier General Joseph Nunoo-Mensah just brought us the letter of resignation. I will just read, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's a 7-paged letter of resignation. And it's titled Ministry of Defense, Burma Camp, Accra, 22nd November 1982. I wasn't born. The chairman...
You weren't born?
Yes, I wasn't born. The chairman, Provisional National Defense Council, Gonda Barracks, Accra. And it says, Dear Chairman, letter of resignation from the PNDC. Okay, but that wasn't from the military.
I wrote it to
Okay.
Morris.
Okay.
I was chief of defense staff and a member of the PNDC.
Okay, so it was a resignation not just from the military, but also from the PNDC, because I know that you resigned.
Yes.
It says, I am compelled by circumstances. I'll just read a bit of it. As I just said, it's a 7-page document, so we can't read all of that here. It says, I'm compelled by circumstances beyond my control to write to you today to inform you regrettably of my decision to retire from the armed forces and also resign my membership of the Provisional National Defense Council. As the Chief of the Defense Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces and a member of the Provisional National Defense Council government, I owe it a duty to you, our countrymen and posterity, to explain the circumstances that have led me to come to this painful decision. Right from the beginning of, so that's the second paragraph, of the 31st December Revolution, I have had certain reservations about the way and manner certain policies have been formulated and executed, but I had always cherished the hope that with time the dust will settle and common sense and pragmatism would prevail. It is almost 11 months now since we launched the country onto a revolutionary path, yet it is not clear to most people, including myself, except certain close confidants of yours, which way we are heading to. So he goes on to explain, but I'll just go to the final page, which says, I have been horrified by the senseless and heinous crime of the abduction, murder, and the burning of 3 High Court judges and a retired army officer, and more so by the indications that people in responsible political positions might be implicated in this dastardly act. The whole episode cast an ugly slur on the image and integrity of the government. In the circumstance, I can only bow my head in shame and quit honorably. May I finally express my sincere gratitude for the honor you have done me in giving me the opportunity to serve the country and the armed forces once again. I sincerely hope that the collective will of the people of Ghana will prevail at all times, and that only policies which aim at their best interests will be pursued at all times to bring economic prosperity and social justice to millions of our poor, hungry people.
That's right.
This very last statement in this last paragraph seemed to contradict what you said earlier, that things got worse rather in the Fourth Republic. But over here in 1982, we were not yet in the Fourth Republic.
And what things have I said have gone bad?
So, for instance, you've talked about economic prosperity.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying that to ensure economic prosperity, policies which are in their best interests must be pursued. I haven't said that things were not. I just got fed up with it. But when someone asked me this morning about the band, there was a radio station that called me, and there was a background talking about the cathedral. Before my interview, I asked the cathedral, if Christ was to be alive today, you condemn the building of the cathedral.
But
people are hungry.
How do you know Christ would?
People are hungry. I've been building a cathedral for my father. There are many churches. Why people are hungry, they can't get Gary to eat when they build their cathedral. Put that money in their well-being. The point I mean, policies which are in the best interest of the people. If you ask a poor person begging in the street there, would you prefer cathedral or Gary for you to eat? What would he say?
I want to return to the police and then we'll wrap up our conversation. 2024 is on its way. Yes. I mean, less than a year, we're going to go into the election. I mean, election will be in December. We are almost in December. So let's say a little over a year, rather. And some people think that this probe, as in of the police administration, now it's gone beyond the IGP, could be damaging to an institution that has a crucial or critical role to play in this upcoming elections. What do you think about that argument?
I've already answered that question in my earlier comment. People at the IGP, after the probe, his image has been diminished.
Aside from him quitting, so that's him. But the administration itself, because now we've gone into the governance and the administration of the police service.
If you get when you get a new leader, things happen by the way or by the leader that comes into office. I'm talking from experience. His image had been, all this thing about him had diminished him. I said, I'm quitting. It hasn't changed since 40-something, 82, almost 40 years ago, 42 plus years ago. When you get a new leader, he will reorganize the institution with his image. And I'm saying that if I were him, I'd like, how did you go and that's working like the old IGP? They have diminished him with all this they said about him. When, again, you go into the military, go to the Second World War, if my experience in my training, my profession, has taught me quite a lot of things. And Britain was being really crushed by Germany. And the British forces were chased out of Europe. Then Winston Churchill became prime minister. And the whole thing changed. We will never surrender. So a new child will create a new atmosphere. But the old one, they have damaged him. I'm saying that if I were him, after all this has been cleared, thank you very much.
Aside from the advice for the IGP to resign, what would you advise generally?
I think that one thing we've done wrong, and Nkrumah didn't do that. He acted as the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He did what he wanted to do with the military. The opposition didn't exist, so they did not really play that much role. But today, anybody who is in power want to put somebody say our man, like IGP, is not one of us. That nonsense has to stop. Everybody is our man. Everybody that become IGP, anybody, IGP, CDS, will serve the country with all his heart. So don't say it's not what a man. The man in uniform cannot join the NPP or the NDC. He must act neutrally and run the country. Look at the IGP must run the election. If you say not our man, so how, if anything happens, they say, well, but you told the man is not our man. They have damaged him, they have destroyed him.
I would take your recommendations and final words shortly, or rather final words. But I don't want to end this conversation without asking you about Israel. The question I want to ask is, Israel's intelligence agency, Mossad, is seen as one of the best in the world. Of course, you've got the CIA, which is acclaimed the best. The question people are asking is, being seen as one of the best in the world, how does this agency missing a huge attack like that from Hamas say of how security agencies, especially in this part of the world, need to act?
It's a huge, monumental failure. It's probably one of the best, not probably the best. And for them to miss, I just saw on television caption, one of the Hamas people was saying that they planned this for 2 years. Of course, for 2 years, we can't plan this big thing just one day. And that Mossad was out, flanked, and didn't hear about it. It's quite. I know there'll be a lot of inquiry in Israel after all this is over to find out. I'm sure the government, they will be taken to task as for what happened, how they missed this huge rock coming toward. They didn't see it coming.
How do you think, what kind of signal do you think it sends to security agencies in the sub-region where you've had proliferation of coups and terrorists?
There's a point, they cannot see everything. I mean, you can't see everything. Having been there, you can't see everything. When I've been involved in, not in coup d'etats, but one major one, in 1978. Are you going to tell me you were not born by that time too? The military decided to remove a champion from power, our chief of staff. And the reason why we did that, we don't want to go through it, but simply to get out of politics. We were in politics, we didn't like it. But the intelligence agencies did not know about it. And they wouldn't know about it because of the Gaza one, the Egypt one, Israel one is different. Here, we met in a room like this, and by my house chief of staff, I'll show a picture of King Charles. Have you seen it there? Have you seen it?
Not yet.
And decision was taken by the High Command that we would do this. Well, no way anyone will hear about this. Unless one of us became what do you call it?
A traitor.
A traitor. But the military, we won't. The kind of people we had know that they will never do it. We all die together. So in that situation, you will never know about it. But in a case like this, they should have, I mean, it's amazing how they miss the whole thing like that. But you don't solve this problem in the middle of war. After the war, they will sit down and analyze. There'll be an inquiry. There will be a huge inquiry. What happened? But the whole thing to me gives me a lot of unhappiness, especially where ordinary women, children are being killed. It really upsets me a lot. If a soldier who are being killed, fair enough. But if you go and then deny them of basic like water and whatnot, really, again, my background here, what I've seen in the past, press my mind forward. I told you before, I think I said it here. When a neighbor, like, 2 houses here, and our neighbor and the wife was killed that night with a child not older than 10 months. You can imagine that. You can imagine you wake up and then you are gone. And your wife, your blood everywhere. I mean, it must be a terrible thing. And that's what I do. I joined the army not to fear to die, but to kill my wife and children. Very upset.
Your final words, General.
Final word is that, you talk about election next year. I don't like any people in this to behave as if they are enemies. They are Israel and Hamas. We are not Israel and Hamas. We are fighting to make Ghana a better place. Let's play politics the way it should be played. Civil, civilized. When I went to Britain in 1961, I was taken to, not I alone, all the foreign students to London. Camberley is only 30 miles from London. In uniform to House of Lords, House of Commons, to see democracy at work. And to drum it into our head that soldiers don't run a country. I learned from there. You don't take power. But some are becoming fashionable now that people have been kicking government in our sub-region. And I think the politicians have to take note and behave themselves. If you can't, then ECOWAS said they want to go to Niger and kick out you're going to burn the whole of the sub-region. Run your government in a way that if they say President Akufo-Addo didn't do well, he did his best. I did my best. If my best is not good enough, so be it. But don't fail by doing the things which are not right. There's too much suffering. Too much suffering. When I look at school children, they're going to leave school and do what work. Let's call a general, sit down there. Go and put your head together. This is a campaign, general, this and that. Let me see next week. Bring some ideas how to tackle this problem.
You think people like you should be consulted on the way forward?
I think that there are enough brains around, not only within the MPP. Go beyond the MPP. President, see, again, I think you asked me this question, that his helpers and others are not helping him. If I were there, I would tell President Francophone and Nunoo-Mensah, talk to them. I'll tell President Mills, when I call President Mills, the war, the trouble in Yendi and then in Boku, as the President, call General Hamidu and talk to him. The General, Sunday in Embra, bring him onto my office in the castle. I brought him. You see, people think that they enjoy the tension between them. I don't enjoy it. It's all hopeless. We spend our energy positive, not trying to fight each other. How to do that is to, I know him very well. I know him. I was campaign manager. I know him very well. And I'm surprised that somebody hasn't told the General, the President, call your friend and talk to him. Like after this interview yesterday, the whole day, my phone is full of people trying to call me and ask me, you said, why do you say this? Let me find out. I know a lot can be done. I know. Even by me, with my training. You go to university, you get a degree in law or in economics. You are not a leader. With the Jackson didn't go to any, when he talked English, people didn't understand. They were clapping, they didn't understand what he was saying. But he became one of the best prime ministers Britain ever had. So I'm advised to they should take, Ghana is in a serious situation, because the whole world is boiling. So nobody has time for us. IMF money said the money was coming, since when? To the West
second tranche is expected in November.
So are you going to be okay? She can say, now we are fit, we can move forward. It will never happen. unless we can mobilize the people to, you know, this is what we cannot do, and we can do it.
Thank you so much, General.
And God bless you.
For
and your...
General Joseph, Brigadier General Joseph Nunoo-Mensah for joining us on Townhall Talk tonight.
God bless you.
God bless you too. And that will be our conversation tonight on Townhall Talk. Of course, we've spoken about the economy of the country. We've spoken about corruption. We've also talked about the probe into Cecilia the Past case and the IGP, and a bit on what's happening in Israel. My name is Beatrice Edu, and our guest once again has been Brigadier General Nunoo-Mensah. He is a former Chief of Defense Staff under the Rawlings military regime. He became a campaign manager of the current President Nana Akufo-Addo in the 2008 presidential elections, and he became National Security Advisor when the late President Mills was in power. And that's our conversation for tonight. My name is Beatrice Edu. Join us again next week on Townhall Talk.